Well, hello. I am Dr. Catherine Clements, the Ecology and Natural Resources Educator here at University of Florida IFAS Extension, Sarasota County. And today we are going to be joined by Miss Cassidy, who is going to share a life science short with us. Life stands for Learning in Florida's Environment, and what we're going to learn about today is how hurricanes form. Not only is she going to talk to you about that, but she's going to talk about states of matter and the water cycle, or hydrologic cycle, like us scientists like to say. And she's going to show you some cool experiments you can do at home or at school. So come along with me and let's find Miss Cassidy and learn more about hurricanes.
Hi everyone, my name is Cassidy House and I am the Natural Resources and Sustainability Communication and Outreach Intern here at UF IFAS Extension, Sarasota County. And today we're going to talk about hurricanes. So, as most of us Floridians know, hurricanes are giant rainstorms with speedy winds. The winds range from 74 miles per hour up to 200 miles per hour, which is faster than the majority of cars can go at top speed. So, how do hurricanes even start? How do they form? Well, they begin at the equator, which if you look at this map, is kind of the middle line of the earth, where the water is about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Then the warm water rises and evaporates into warm air. Now, this process of evaporation is not exclusive to hurricanes. You can do evaporation too. All you need are three materials. You need a marker, a cup full of water, and the sun. So, it's super simple. What you're going to do is you're going to take your marker and your cup full of water, and you're going to make a mark where the water line is. So, where the water reaches the edge, you're going to make a mark there so that you know how much water is in your cup. Now, we're going to go over and place our cup in the sun carefully, without spilling any water. And that's it. You have started the process of evaporation. So every few hours, come back and check on your cup and make another mark where the new water line is. Because once it sits in the sun, it will evaporate. It will change from a liquid into a gas, because that's what evaporation is. It is when liquid such as water changes into a gas such as water vapor. So this cup over here has already been out in the sun for a few hours. And as you can see, the water line is way lower than where it originally was. That is because the water evaporated into a gas. What we just witnessed was a change in the state of matter of water. So the water was originally a liquid, which is one of the three states of matter. They are liquid, gas, and solids. So the liquid water just evaporated into gaseous water forms, which is called water vapor. Does anyone know what the solid state of matter of water is? If you guessed ice, you're correct. So, evaporation is only one small part of the Earth's natural water cycle. There are two other parts that we need to discuss today. First is condensation. Condensation is when gas turns into a liquid, like how water vapor turns back into liquid water. And we're going to do that now. So for this experiment, you're going to need 4 materials. You're going to need 2 plastic cups, an ice pack or ice cubes, and some hot water. So I already microwaved some hot water and I'm going to take it out, but before I do, I'm going to remember that this water is hot, so I have to be careful when taking it out. And if you feel like you need a parent for this step, make sure you go and ask for help. Okay, so it's safe to touch, so I'm going to take it out and pour it into my cup. Now, these cups will not melt or crack with hot water. Make sure that you have cups that will not melt or crack when you pour hot water in them too. There we go, and be careful for spills, because remember that water's hot. Now, take your other cup, put it upside down on the cup with water, and put an ice pack on top carefully. Take some balance. You can also use ice cubes if you want. So, Now, after a few minutes, inside of the upside down cup, condensation is going to form. Now, I already did this experiment a few minutes ago, and this is what my top cup looks like. If you can see, there are water droplets inside of the cup. Now, I didn't put any water in this cup. There was only air inside this cup, which means that condensation happened. The gas, the water vapor from inside, turned back into its liquid forms. And you can see it upside down here too. And now you can even put your finger in there and it comes out wet. That's because, once again, it turned back into liquid water. So now let's talk a little bit about precipitation. Precipitation, which is the other part of the Earth's natural water cycle, is just scientists' fancy word for rain, snow, sleet, or hail. Precipitation happens when the condensation in the clouds gets too heavy and falls to the ground. Let's go back to talking about hurricanes. Now that the warm water has evaporated, it turned into warm air. And there is one very important property of warm air. It rises. Warm air goes up because it is less dense than colder air. So, because the warm air rises, an area of low pressure is created near the surface because all that air just rose up and away. As you can see, there are now less molecules or tiny parts of near the surface because that warm air rose up and away. So all the molecules that are still there have more room to spread out. This is known as low pressure. So the cooler air with higher pressure wants more space to spread out too. So the cold air swoops down to fill in that low pressure area to try to make the space balanced again. So no molecule has too much or too little room. This happens over and over and over again. The warm air keeps going up and the cooler air keeps going down to fill in the low pressure near the surface. As this process continues, more and more water vapor from the evaporated ocean water gathers in the air and creates big clouds, like cumulonimbus clouds. While that cycle is happening, the winds begin to blow in a circle around the storm. These winds get faster and faster, and once they reach 74 miles per hour, the storm is officially a hurricane. So, to recap, a hurricane can only form when the water is at least 80 degrees. That creates warm air that rises and makes the cool air fall. This cycle keeps happening until it creates a storm. Then the winds speed up to at least 74 miles per hour. And that, my friends, is a hurricane. A 74 mile per hour hurricane is actually a pretty small hurricane. Hurricanes are measured on the saffir-simpson hurricane wind scale. This is the scale that all people use to measure the strength of a hurricane. Hurricane strength is determined by their wind speed. For example, a Category 1, the weakest hurricane, has winds that are 74 miles per hour to 95 miles per hour. And even though that is the weakest hurricanes, those winds are still insanely fast. For perspective, no car is allowed to go that fast in the entire state of Florida. A Category 5 hurricane is the strongest hurricane out there. A Category 5 hurricane has winds that are 157 miles per hour or greater. They are catastrophic, but you do not need to worry because government scientists have satellites in the sky that watch over our oceans and can tell us in advance when a hurricane is coming our way. So that way you have time to drive out of harm's way if need be. But since we live in Florida, and since we have a lot of rainstorms and hurricanes, it is always good to be prepared. Talk to your parents about their hurricane preparedness plan and ask them if they have their own hurricane supply kit. A good hurricane supply kit has enough food and water for at least 3 days. To learn more about hurricane preparedness, check out one of our other life videos. So, have you ever wondered why Florida gets so many more hurricanes than all the other states? Why us? Well, it's because of our geography. Florida is located near the tropical areas of the earth. And do you remember how I said hurricanes need warm water to be able to form? Well, not many places have water warm enough for hurricanes to even begin. If you look on this map, you can see that the tropic areas are in this location, and Florida is them. Now, even though Florida is right above the tropics, we still get a lot of hurricanes because of the wind coming from Africa and feeding the storms in this area that eventually come to Florida. Another reason why Florida gets so many hurricanes compared to the rest of the United States is because we are a peninsula. This means that water is surrounding us on 3 sides and we connect to land on the 4th side. Hurricanes need water. Hurricanes need that water cycle for the warm air to rise and the cool air to keep falling. So that's why they're more likely to come to Florida, because we have more water surrounding us than other states. So what happens when hurricanes come to land? Well, one very dangerous thing that happens is called a storm surge. When the winds of a hurricane pile up the water and throw it on the land, that can be very dangerous for coastal communities because that could flood your area. This is why it's always good to have a hurricane preparedness plan and to take hurricane warnings seriously. But here's the thing. Nature can actually protect us from hurricanes and storm surges. For example, coastal wetlands can absorb water from a flood or a storm surge and slowly and safely release it back into our water systems. Mangrove forests, such as the ones you see in this picture, these are a picture of red mangroves, they also help protect us from floods and storm surges. Do you see how close and dense its roots are? Well, that helps slow down a flood and keep salt water in the ocean and away from our land and freshwater systems. These type of services are called ecosystem services, and it's why it's so important to protect nature, because they can protect us when we most need it. Now, let's go make a hurricane in a bowl. So for this experiment, you will need 3 materials: a spoon, a glass bowl full of water, about halfway full, and some food dye. So the first step is to open the food dye. Next, take your spoon and swirl your water around in a circle. Make sure you keep going one direction. And you can go faster and faster and faster if you want. Now this next step happens quick. Once I stop swirling the water with my spoon, I'm going to put the food dye in the center of my circle of water. All right, so let's do that now. Wow. So as the air clouds rush towards the low pressure area at the center of the hurricane, the rotation of the Earth pulls the winds and clouds to the right in the northern hemisphere, causing the spiral shape that you see here.
Well, thank you, Miss Cassidy, for telling us all about how hurricanes are formed and showing us those really cool experiments. And for all you kids and adults out there, if you want to learn more about hurricane preparedness or mangrove ecosystems, don't forget to watch our other life science shorts on those topics. All right, we look forward to seeing you for our next episode of Life Learning in Florida's Environment. Bye!